Here come the jesters, 1, 2, 3. It's all part of my fantasy. I love the music and I love to see the crowd dancing in the aisles and singing out loud. Yeah. Here come the dancers, one by one. Your mama's calling, but you're having fun. You'll find you're dancing on that number 9 cloud. Put your hands together now and sing it out loud. It's all part of my rock and roll fantasy. It's all part of my rock and roll dream. Yeah. It's all part of my rock and roll fantasy. It's all part of my rock and roll dream. Put up the spotlights, one and all, and let the feeling get down to your soul. The music's so loud you can hear the sound, reaching for the sky, turning up the ground. It's all part of my rock and roll fantasy. It's all part of my rock and roll dream. Oh yeah. It's all part of my rock and roll fantasy. It's all
Uh, I don't know about specifically, but I think what's going to be easy for me is just looking at this list in front of me. I would say let's just go to the Patriots backfield real quick because that's the first one I'm seeing. So Damian Harris is out with the concussion. Ramondre Stevenson cleared concussion protocol. So I wanted to bring it up because I mean I've been talking about Ramondre Stevenson since what, like preseason this year, and he has flashed. He's looked good just about every time he's been able to actually get out of the field and play. We might actually get to see some real run from him today, but JJ Taylor is also going to be activated on the roster. Wouldn't shock me at all because it's New England if he ends up getting like the goal line carries or something and ends up being the better fantasy option. I think you could play Ramondre Stevenson though in a desperation situation. I also think you could probably play Brandon Bolden too. But it's more or less like I just want to see how that looks today and how it goes. And if Stevenson, if he does get a lot of the work, I want to see, can he hold on to the ball and does he look good? Because if so, I think like moving forward, we might see a more of a true like split backfield between him and Harris, and which is just inevitably gonna put it in a situation where if you have Damian Harris, you're not happy, and if you picked up Ramondre Stevenson late, you're pretty happy.
Yeah, and I think some of the intrigue with like a JJ Taylor might be some of the receiving work, but we've seen Ramondre Stevenson get some like next level looks in the receiving game too. We talked a little bit about the routes he's been running or where they've targeted him on the field, and it looks like there is a very high ceiling for how they might use Ramondre Stevenson in the receiving game too that I like.
Right. That's what makes him more intriguing than Damian Harris because he gets involved in the pass game like that. J Rob or Javante, I would probably play James Robinson. I think that he should get the majority of the work in that backfield, whereas Javante and Melvin split. And also, I don't mind the matchup at all going against the Colts. You know, the Philly dub has brought it up before, but there's games where the Eagles just really show up on stopping the run on defense. So I go J Rob there. How about you, Dub?
Yeah, they're saying that he's got like a heel injury that he's managing, but if he's out there, I like him.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of part of it. When I see him being active when they could, they could easily just not play him, like they did last week. It seems like he wouldn't be limited, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe we'd have to look to see like if there's a report that came out about if he's expected to be on any sort of snap count or not. But if he's not on any sort of snap count, if he's full go, I feel pretty good playing him.
Yeah, and he's not the type of player that you're putting out there because like he's the big home run hitter and you think you might get a lot out of a handful of touches. So yeah, I
Right,
think that it's implied that if they feel good enough to put him out there, he's expected to get volume.
right. So Jalen Hurts, Derek Carr. So Derek Carr's got what we think might be a nice matchup with Kansas City, but like Jalen Hurts, man, he just gets it done one way or the other for fantasy every week. Uh, I think. Oh God, I really don't like Jalen Hurts as a quarterback in the NFL, but I'd probably start him in fantasy.
I go Hurts too. I think Carr looked a little indecisive without Ruggs on the field. They picked up Deshaun Jackson to help with that, but that's got to take. I think that's going to take a little time to gel. Nobody really stepped up with those extra looks. Like Brian Edwards got a couple red zone looks that didn't turn into anything. They didn't connect. So I think
Yeah,
Derek Carr is just kind of out on an island right now. I think he could still be fantasy relevant, but Hurts has been really good for fantasy.
yeah. Hurts had a couple weeks for fantasy where he wasn't. But it's kind of funny because he had more successful weeks on the football field the last couple weeks, but then his fantasy numbers weren't as good, which is so weird. But I don't expect that to continue. Hurts just with his rushing ability and potential for him to get in the end zone running, like it's just too much upside. Knox or Alex Collins, like so you're looking at a flex there, I suppose. Uh, for me, it's going to be Alex Collins, and that's probably not going to be where most people want to go. What do you think, Dub?
Probably the safer pick. Knox has missed some time. I do like I like Knox and I like that he was on a heater before he went down. Um because he was kind of a new piece to that offense and something that kind of surprised us this year. I'm a little hesitant on his first game back to really buy in, so I do like Alex Collins. If Knox has a good week this week, and I did put a couple bets on Knox's stats this week. Um,
Yeah,
if he does have a good game, though, I mean, I think it's locked and loaded for the rest of the year. It's just more to me about like how much of that role he won and like did he take it far enough to where he's just going to plug right back in as soon as he comes back, which could be the case, but just because he was a new factor this year, I'm just a little hesitant on his first game back. Maybe the Bills have settled into some alternatives while he was gone that might take a little time for him to get back into a flow, even if it's just about like attention from Josh Allen, or maybe they're just more aware of some things like Cole Beasley's, the replacement that we were talking about while he was out, and maybe he continues to get a few more looks than he was, pre Knox injury. So I'm holding off a little bit, but I'm optimistic about Knox rest of the season.
yep, I agree. I'm reading Ryan's question here. I am leaning towards Rudolph since I have Deontay Johnson and the tight end. Gut says Heineke or Trev. Uh, so the ones that I can rule out would be Walker. I'm probably not gonna play Colt McCoy either. I'm not gonna play Simeon. I would prefer not to play Rudolph. I do understand what you're saying about having those players, and fantasy football is supposed to be fun too. So if you're kind of indecisive on these guys and you just want to like watch a game with some extra motivation and enjoy that, then play Rudolph because a lot of these guys are kind of questionable. But we don't. I think I can speak safely for Dub too, and we don't think much of Rudolph as a player.
Trevor Lawrence
I gotta pull matchups here.
Trevor Lawrence was managing. He's not 100% right now, and he hasn't really been great for fantasy either. So I think we can take him off the list.
Who's that? Trevor Lawrence?
Yeah. I mean, Heineke has been good at times. I think it's weird to say, but like, because we've only seen it once, one game ever, but like, it feels like Mike White's probably offering the most upside just because he did it 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. I think, man, I think I would just fucking. Oops, sorry, I shouldn't have said that. I think my kid might be watching today. For me, I think I would have to play either Trevor Lawrence or Mayfield. I can't play Walker. I can't play Rudolph. I can't play Simeon. And then like White going against Buffalo, right? They're playing Buffalo today.
Yeah.
I can't do it. He has looked like surprisingly good. Like, of course, no one expected him to come in and play like he has. So if he goes out and does against Buffalo what he did the last couple weeks, then I will automatically at that point like bow down, buy in, and say, okay, this guy actually might be a thing. But I'm not there yet, and I'm not going to be the guy caught holding the bag, starting Mike White out there getting 4.5 fantasy points against Buffalo. I can't do it if that happens. So, Trevor Lawrence, or it's Mayfield for me. And to me, it's like Trevor Lawrence, I think, has more upside because there's different times in games where he's actually ran the ball some more, and I just like his matchup a little bit more. But I think Baker's the safest option there. I'll play Baker. I want to play Baker.
I like Baker too. Baker's had some good games. In New England scares me a little bit, but like he's the guy out of this list. He's the guy that was starting that has had a few, nice games in the last month or so.
Well, look, they got no OBJ now, so of course Baker's going to be a top 10 quarterback, right? Isn't that how it works?
Yeah.
Because now he's got Donovan Peoples-Jones out there. So they're they're hitting for a deep one.
I think I had a dream that he hit DPJ again. Like, actually.
What's that?
I think I had a dream that Baker hit DPJ for
Really?
another touchdown. Yeah. Now that you say that, I'm like, wait, what? I thought they already
It's
played.
happening.
No, they didn't already play. I had a dream about it. Weird.
Yeah, Heineke did have that game against the Bucks. That was good. And you're probably like, look, I can tell you this much. I put a nice little hefty bet on the Bucks to be up on Washington today and early. And if that does happen, then yeah, like of course there's that opportunity for Heineke to put up some fantasy points late in the game and make his fantasy day. That is a possibility for sure.
End of the day, you got to roll with your gut. But we've got it narrowed down to what, Trevor Lawrence or Mayfield, and then yeah, we're probably waiting another week on Mike White, but he put up numbers that none of those guys have either. If you're going full YOLO,
I know.
you can consider it, but that's got to be your choice.
I'm just a little too nervous to want to be the guy to jump in that early on a quarterback.
Yeah, I get it.
Like that. And with Heineke, I don't know. I can't tell you exactly the rhyme or reason if it's just teams having more film on him or just a steady decline in play for any number of reasons. But Heineke hasn't been that great lately. He's been pretty rough lately. And the Bucks are just. I know that secondary has been a secondary that most people have been able to have success against, but I just feel like there's going to be a shift in momentum in the second half of the year with the Bucks. I think they're going to get better on defense, just like they did last year when it starts to matter.
I did check.
They'll find
The Bucks
ways.
are still out their top 2 corners. I just wanted to double check that because I haven't in a while. But it looks like they have Sherman back. Bunting and Carlton Davis are both out still.
Yeah, those
But
injuries are hurting.
it's been a while. I mean, they've had some time to figure that out.
Well, not the secondary, the front gets so much pressure too on quarterbacks that it really helps out the secondary at times.
Oh yeah.
And you get quarterbacks like that are guys like the Heinekes of the world. I just feel like if you put a lot of pressure on them, that can lead to mistakes, lead to interceptions and digging themselves out of a hole.
Well, yeah. Part of Heineke's production last year was that he like scurried out and got some rushing touchdowns. So like,
Yeah.
if he's getting a lot of heat from Tampa, I think that's less likely too. If they're flying off the edge, I mean.
And you know what? That makes me think about that McKissick over. Receptions, yards. You know what? Let's go put in a JD McKissick bet real quick.
Done.
You know?
Done.
But yeah, Bills have something to prove this week after getting shut down by the Jags. I think Jets may lay an egg today. It's possible. I mean, hey, I was talking about the Bucks and my bet with the Bucks. I got a bet with the Bills today too. Maybe those two may or may not be parlayed together. So I agree.
What else we got? We got some news. The Cardinal situation sounds pretty similar to what it was last week. They're saying that
Yeah.
Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins are looking a little grim to play this week, but they're true to game time decisions. And they're a West Coast team that's good, so they're playing a little later. It looks like they got the 4 o'clock draw against Carolina. And Carolina's defense has been decent, and they're adding talent. Like Gilmore's been out there for a couple weeks, and it's just a matchup that even if Kyler is banged up, but he's playing, like a little sketched out by that. Especially if Hopkins is banged up or out too. I guess AJ Green's back, but I don't know how much that helps without Hopkins. Like he's the one guy that I feel like they need out there, and the rest of them can kind of capitalize on the opportunities, right?
Right. Yeah, it does seem for sure like Hopkins is out. I think we could almost guarantee that at this point. And then Kyler is a little bit more on the fence, but yeah, like you said, same as last week. Seems like he's going to sit too, is what it seems. AJ Green's back, so what they got AJ Green, they got Kirk, they got Moore, and then they're probably going to get both running backs pretty heavily involved today. I don't know, man. I mean, maybe Cliff is a better coach than we're giving him credit for because he's put together this roster that's really clicking right now on both sides of the ball. And last week with Kyler and DeAndre Hopkins out, they still had a great game last week. So maybe I don't know, maybe he's a really good coach and they pull through again today and have a good game. But I don't want to bet on it. Yeah, I don't want to. I don't want to have to play. I don't want to play any of those receivers if I don't have to. But I will play James Conner and be fine with that.
Yeah, I would feel pretty good about Conner. They were also saying that like Rondale Moore is working through some concussion protocol, I think it was, and there's just a lot of bad news for their skill players. It's tough, man, because they were buzzing. Arizona was buzzing, and now they've had so many setbacks in such a short period of time.
Right. Pick 3 running backs: Mark Ingram, Dearness Johnson, Zeke Patterson. So Zeke and Patterson are your automatic plays, in my opinion. And then between Dearness and Mark Ingram, it's closer. But man, I think
I go Ingram.
I thought you would, and I would go Dearness. So take with that what you will.
Do we know if last I saw, Chubb still had a chance to play?
I think he's out. I think
Okay.
they've ruled him out. I'll double check real quick if you want to go ahead on what you're why you'd want to play Ingram, or we can just move on to the next one too. No matter.
Well, I mean, Tennessee has beaten some good teams, but and they've. I do think that defense has looked a little better over the last few weeks. But I mean, let's not overrate the fact that they've beat some good teams because they've done it scoring some points too. I think Mark Ingram getting the volume there, even with Trevor Siemian there, I don't think Trevor Siemian's a huge downgrade from Jameis Winston. I just like that he is in a position to get a lot of touches, which would apply to Dearness Johnson too if Chubb's out. But I do also view Tennessee's defense as being a little more approachable than New England's. We've talked a little bit about how New England tends to scheme really well, and sometimes they miss on those opportunities, but when they hit it, it's like it's ugly. So
Right.
I just feel, but I know that I'm a little bigger on Mark Ingram over the last couple weeks than most people too. So take it with a grain of salt, I guess, but I just feel a little better about what Mark Ingram can do. I think there's a comfort level that's helping him too, between him and the team. So that's
Yeah.
kind of my reasoning.
Well, and I think at the end of the day, I think both are good plays. So it's not like we're sitting here with trying to figure out two bad options and really just hoping something lucky happens. Both those guys should be heavily involved in today's games. I just have I have I'm just buying into uh the Cleveland Browns run game. It just their offensive line. It's funny because you can the Saints are kind of comparable to this, but the Cleveland's offensive line is so good, and they're one of the best. They're one of the very best run teams, and I'm not that afraid of New England's defense. It's not like I feel like there's some easy matchup, but I'm not that afraid of them. And when we just saw this game a couple weeks ago, Dearness Johnson with Chubb out and Creemon out, he got a ton of work
Yeah.
and he looked real good out there.
I'm going Keenan
like him.
Allen for the receivers, but I do think that Adam Thielen's a close second. We probably don't love the matchup against the Chargers defensive backfield because they have been pretty good, but I do think Adam Thielen's role in that offense allows him to be more productive against some of the tougher defenses, pass defenses. Keenan Allen's been doing a lot more since Mike Williams has kind of been faded, and I think that might be Mike Williams drawing a little more attention. I know Keenan Allen, they're saying, has a little bit of a knee thing, but I still like him more. But I do think Thielen's a very close second.
Yeah, agree with all that, and yes, I would play Keenan as well. Keenan's been red hot. Gotta play him. So there's a big one, bro. There's a big one we can talk about is OBJ. So Robert Woods goes out with this ACL injury. I mean, things just kind of lined up for OBJ, didn't they?
Oh, yeah.
He goes to the Rams, and I imagine most people's response, immediate reaction if you had Odell. I mean, you could tell me because you had him, but I know my initial thought would have been like, okay. Because it's like, it's better than being in Cleveland. Obviously, it's better than being in Cleveland. And you got Stafford now, but it was Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, and Van Jefferson's been so much more involved. And now you're like, well, damn, now how does he fit in over there?
Yep.
Then Robert Woods goes out with the ACL, and now it's all opened up. And it's like there's a clear path for OBJ to be on the field early, and it's just going to be a matter of him getting comfortable in that offense and getting on the same page with Stafford. And then from there, it'll just be, we'll get to just see then, like, where is OBJ as a player now? Like, what is he capable of now? Because you won't have an excuse. He'll be out there and in one of the better offenses in the league. So
Well,
I think it's obviously a win for him, but it's also a win for Van Jefferson.
the
I think.
the way that the Robert Woods news came out last minute, and I mean, it was a Friday injury, and it was typically their last practice going into the week. The difference is that these guys play on Monday night, so I believe Monday, when teams have a Monday game, they practice on a Saturday too. I believe that's the case. So they might have had, one practice post Robert Woods injury, but with the fact that the injury came up late, I do think you're plugging OBJ in as a starting receiver. We're talking like probably wide receiver 3 territory to feel safe about it. We start 3 in our league and then have a flex 2, but I do think he's totally flex worthy in a 2 receiver league. because like Robert Woods, even when we were bummed out about him, I mean, we had talked about it before, like even when we were bummed out about Robert Woods, he was still involved. He just wasn't producing to the level that you were hoping for when you drafted him. He does have a reputation, it seems like, or a track record of being a bit of a slow starter, so we weren't really panicking too much. But I mean that if you go back and you look even at the times that Robert Woods wasn't making fantasy owners happy, he was still involved, and there's a lot of volume, is what I'm getting at. Season long, there's been a lot of volume that Robert Woods has been taking on, and I think that most, if not all of that, goes to OBJ. So I mean, I think he could be a factor from day one, today, and yeah, I think it's going to tell us a lot about what he has in the tank. He's a full-blown head case at this point, but he's also very talented, and going, a change of scenery, I think, for who he is going to serve him and the team very well for a short period of time. And I mean, this dude has a lot of potential going forward with that volume opening up. So very exciting. I think he has the ability to produce on all of the routes and fill in the role that Robert Woods, that they'll be missing with Robert Woods. And the opportunity, I think, is kind of endless at this point.
Yeah, the opportunity is, and I will say, just to touch on what Tech was asking about, Van Jefferson is a good sleeper for the next few weeks. I think he is, because we just don't know. Like, if I had to try to predict what's going to happen with that, I would say that Cooper Kupp probably remains Cooper Kupp and what he's done. I don't think that probably doesn't go away just because of Odell coming in. I think really we just need to see if is Odell just going to kind of slot in as what Robert Woods did, and then it's just business as usual for the rest of the year for that team, or does Van Jefferson get it phased out and Odell becomes more of a focal point in that offense than Robert Woods was, and it's just OBJ and it's Cooper Kupp, or does it flip the other way and Odell's a nice piece, helps the team out, gets 5 to 7 targets a game, but so does Van Jefferson, and maybe Van Jefferson's more efficient with those targets. Like, I don't know, but all these possibilities, all these things can happen. Van Jefferson's worth a stash and hold for a few weeks and just see what happens. You got to think he's been there, and I know Stafford just got there this off season, but like, so he's had that time to work with him. OBJ just got there, and these transitions don't always happen right away. Sometimes these things take time. So I would be stashing Van Jefferson. I think he's a good sleeper, and just kind of see what happens with him. If anything, if anything, you can say for sure he's gonna be on the field a lot, and that team loves to pass the ball. So,
well, the best news for Van Jefferson is that Deshaun Jackson talked his way out of the team. He wasn't as involved as he wanted to be, and I think that that's going to be like the direct benefit to Van Jefferson. There probably is some additional opportunity that we'll just have to wait and see, but I do think it's very good for Van Jefferson that Deshaun Jackson's no longer a factor too, because for the first month or so, they were kind of, one would have a game and one wouldn't, and then it seemed like Van Jefferson took over a little bit, and that's probably why Jackson was like, hey, I'd like to do something else now.
right.
So that's good news. I think that all cleared itself up and benefits Van Jefferson. Robbie, I think if we're looking at those receivers and you're saying it's a big week for you, I think Courtland Sutton offers the upside. I think if you feel you're in a position where you need more of a sure thing, I would go Emmanuel Sanders. But with it being PPR, I mean, Sutton has had like 3, I think, double-digit target games this year. It's just been inconsistent enough that it's frustrating, and you probably don't feel like you totally trust the situation. But when it's a Sutton game, that's big value.
I go Sutton as well. And also, Gage just had himself a nice game, but he's done that before this year and other years where he has a nice week and then the next week is completely uninvolved for one reason or another. Emmanuel Sanders, he's not necessarily even safe, man. He had, like, what was it, 2 weeks ago, he had a 0 catch game. I think we recommended him over quite a few wide receivers on a stream a couple weeks back because he had been playing well, and then went out there and put up a dud.
True.
That just happened.
Most of his games have
Sanders
been
could have
like 5-6 catches for 50-60 yards, though. I think that one's
Right.
an outlier, but it did happen.
right. Yeah, it certainly could be an outlier. I mean, I would still, to be honest, you having Sutton and Sanders, I think you have, and even Gage, because for obvious reasons with Ridley being out, like I think you have some good wide receivers to have on your team. But I totally get the hesitation on wanting to play any of them. But I would play Cortland Sutton as well. As a talent, like Cortland Sutton is a great wide receiver, a great player. He just needs the opportunities in a game. Starting a banged up Zeke in my league gives 1 point, 10 return yard. Yeah, okay, 10 yards for return. Should I start Pollard or Darrell Williams with the expected workload and Gore lurking full PPR? So I'm starting a banged up Zeke. So should I start Pollard? I mean, CH is not playing this week, so I'm playing Darrell Williams. I don't care about Gore. That's where I'm at with it personally.
Yeah, and Pollard's been less involved than I think we both expected him to be coming in. It's not really. I don't know. The return yards I mentioned when Jamal Agnew was brought up a few weeks ago, that like the return yards are like a nice bonus, but what do you think these guys, the priority should be like, what do you think these guys are going to do with their normal touches? Agnew, I think, is a little better than I had expected him to be. He's been a little more involved in the receiving game, but like I still don't look at him as somebody that I would need to put in my in my lineup. I think it's a slight bonus. I like Darrell Williams too.
Yeah. You just can't play Pollard. Pollard has the capability any week to have like a nice game and all, but the thing is, he hasn't done that all year. Didn't he have that one big explosive game week 3 or 4? And then since then, it just hasn't happened because Zeke's been so effective. I don't want to. That's not one of those backfields where I want to play both guys at the same time. I don't want to mess with that. It's hard when Sutton and Emmanuel can have a 20. Yeah, I mean that can definitely happen with both of them, Robbie.
It can. The problem is that the problem comes with those guys. The problem comes when you're trying to like catch lightning in a bottle. Like I think you get 6 points from a guy, that's not a total bust, and it can help your lineup. But like you want the guy in your lineup often enough to where you're catching those big weeks too.
Yeah.
I've tried to
play that game where you play them and then they don't, then you sit them, then they have their big game, and now you're just constantly doing that.
Exactly, and I think that hurts you more than if you are consistently putting those guys in your lineup and you're catching the big games.
Right. Team right now is Tom Brady, CMC, Mitchell, Justin Jefferson, Sutton, Sanders, Broncos, D, Matt Prater. It's a good team. Obviously, CMC coming back, that's sucked for you for a while, but Tom Brady and CMC have the ability to put up 60 points between just those two guys any week.
Dude, I was looking, speaking of Tom Brady, I was looking at like total points in our league so far. And our league's a half PPR. Everything else is pretty standard.
Yeah.
And the top 2 scoring fantasy players so far this year, right now, in our league. Do you want to guess?
You mean quarterbacks removed?
No, out of everybody.
Is Derrick Henry one of them?
Nope.
Cooper Kupp?
Cooper Kupp and Tom Brady are the top 2 scoring players in the league. Cooper Kupp has more points in our league than all but one quarterback.
Yeah. Well, he's been ridiculous. He's been absolutely ridiculous. If there's teams out there that have Derrick Henry and Cooper Kupp, they got to be undefeated. Those guys alone have just carried you.
And Tom Brady, like you could have all 3 of them on the same team.
Right.
You could even have a Debo. Like somebody out there probably has like Tom Brady, Cooper Kupp, Derrick Henry, Debo Samuel, Mike Williams.
Yeah.
Like that probably exists out there somewhere. And then throw in like a Dawson Knox or a Dalton Schultz. Like that, all of that could happen on the same team.
Based on where they were drafted, yeah.
I'd go
Javonte Williams or Van Jefferson or McKissick. Yeah, I think so too.
We were talking that McKissick has the potential for a very nice game script, and we know that he can be heavily involved in the receiving game. So, like, PPR McKissick could outscore Javonte Williams this week, but Javonte's been really good. He's just been a little bit capped with the usage rate, but, like, yeah, I like him.
But been really efficient. Both those running backs have been really efficient
Yeah.
with the work they get. Dude, if that was just one guy in that backfield, because I think either one of those running backs are capable of being a workhorse. Imagine. Imagine how good they'd be for fantasy.
Yeah.
That's good. Higby or Fryermuth. I think that's how you say his name. I will probably play Fryermuth because I don't really care much for Higby. And Fryermuth's been flashing. And oh wait, I'm sorry. Hold up on that. I forgot the news that Big Ben is out because of COVID. So I will play Higby. Unfortunately, I will play Tyler Higby between those two.
And I think some of the fact that he's been there too kind of factors in with OBJ being a new face and Woods being gone. There's a little bit of desire there for Higby. I'm not a big Higby fan either, but there's a
Yeah.
more consistency around him right now.
Well, it sounds like OBJ won't have a full complement of snaps this first week. And I mean, that's Monday game, so we might get more reports out that might change. But as it stands right now, the last I had seen was that I think it was Ian Rappaport said that they would have like a quote package of plays, and they may get him involved in the return game. But it sounded to me like he's not just going to be out there, 80, 90% of snaps. So
They just
Sure.
need to tell him what routes to run.
just get open.
Yeah.
Go out there and get open.
Yeah.
That side of the field's yours. Keenan or CD? I like Keenan. Love CeeDee Lamb. He's an awesome player. But he's had some weird weeks at times, and plus it's just Keenan. It really just comes down to Keenan's been so red hot lately, and I like the matchup against Minnesota too.
Agreed. CD's let me down a little bit this year. He's still been usable,
Maybe
but not what I was hoping for. And Gallup
maybe
comes back this week too.
Right. I'd say Gallup. That we got to see how that works out too, because obviously Schultz has been involved. So it can't be. It's going to be Amari, CD, Gallup, and Schultz. Who's going to take a hit over the next month out of those guys? Probably not going to be Amari or CD.
Yeah, I would
But-
lean Schultz. And then how much does Gallup take? Because I mean, Gallup, even week 1, we only saw really like half a game out of him, right, or 3/4. It's like he was involved
Mhm.
early, and it seemed almost like
Yeah.
he was the guy that Dak was targeting over everybody. So I don't think that's the case rest of season, but a little bit alarming. I do think Gallup offers some value.
Clamp, I think the better question would be, what wide receivers and flex do you have to where you have to bench one of those guys?
True.
Because if I could, I'd want to play them both. But you must have some nice loaded options over there.
Oh, he's got he's got Debo Samuel, AJ Brown, Mike
Right.
Evans. I don't know. Some of you guys that have like these loaded teams that it's just even kind of hard to process. Like, where did you come up with all that?
For real. It's like, who should I play? Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, Cooper Kupp,
DK?
or Justin Jefferson. Which one?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, damn, bro, I don't know all of them. Can you
Yep.
figure out a way to play all of them? Can you rotate them at halftime?
Right.
I'm out here trying to figure out if I'm playing Jalen Waddle this week.
We did touch on most of the big injuries. Like the Robert Woods thing was a big one. Alvin Kamara's out this week too. I mean, we did talk about like playing Mark Ingram, so it was kind of implied. But if anyone didn't know, like Alvin Kamara's out this week, so that's a big bummer for people that own him. I don't know, some other, I guess we can go over kind of quick. Like Jamal Williams is out again, so that's a bump for DeAndre Swift, but they're also playing in Pittsburgh. That could end up just being one of those really low scoring, kind of a, what do you call it? Kind of just grinding through, watching the game. I don't think that's going to be super exciting with Mason Rudolph out there either.
Right.
So I think that's just going to feel like a weird game. But Swift will get some extra opportunity. Little side note about that: Taylor Decker's back. Taylor Decker's been an at least average left tackle for the Lions for a while. They drafted him pretty early. He's been solid for them. The thing I don't like about it is bringing him back means they're moving Sewell back to right tackle, which is where Sewell actually looked a little less comfortable. I was really hoping that they'd move Decker to the right side, but I understand he's had like 7 years in at left tackle, so probably going to take a whole offseason to make that change. What I'm saying, I guess, is that they're getting better or healthier on the line. Ragnow's still out, but I think moving Sewell to the right side might hurt that line overall as much as getting Decker back helps them. So I think it's more of a draw. You're just going to proceed as normal with DeAndre Swift. The Williams injury affects it, but Decker returning, I don't think does because of the Sewell move.
Yeah. Okay. Something I want to bring up is Chase Edmonds was like officially placed on IR. I imagine I don't know. He's going to be out at least 3 weeks. Obviously, it could be longer. We don't really know. If you have James Conner, congratulations, because I think that you've got yourself a pretty safe RB2 at this point. And I think that the other running back that they have, Eno Benjamin, I think that's how you say his name. I just want to mention him because if you guys out there don't have any, like if you're struggling for a third running back option and you're just you're just reaching for some of these guys on waivers, I think he would be worth at least considering because he will get some work. He will be the running back 2 for that team until Edmonds comes back, which could be a month. We don't know. I mean, that's a lot of time, potentially. And that offense obviously is a high-powered one. When they get Kyler back, I mean, we've all seen how that offense works. But I just really don't believe that they will lean on James Conner to be a complete workhorse. I just don't see that happening. I think he's going to get more work than he did. Like he could be in line for 20 touches any given week. But I don't think he's going to be the only guy you see out there. I think Benjamin is going to get his share of play. I believe this was a guy that they had drafted last year, and he didn't really get any playing time. He's starting to, and I think it was in a roundabout way what Cliff said is he's starting to kind of come into his own a little bit in his opinion. So we might see him out on the field. That might be a guy that you're not really paying any attention to, and then we could be looking at him as like a guy that we might be picking up on waivers next week. If you want to try to get ahead of that possibility, you could throw him on the end of your bench now before the game start and just see what it looks like. I'm just throwing that out there.
I like it.
It's unfortunate with Colt McCoy playing that like we probably won't get a good read on how all of this how that backfield will look with Kyler in. But I think if you're in a deep league, you should be putting him on the end of your bench and just see what happens. Julio's on IR, bro.
Yeah. And that was after he like missed some time, and then he came back, and then he tweaked it, and then he came back, and then he tweaked it. They rushed him back, right?
Yeah, I guess so, probably. I mean, I'm sure he was every week. He was probably like, "Yeah, I'm good. I'll play. Let's go." and then they want to put him out there, and then he just keeps hurting it. And I don't know. I don't know if he hurt it even more. Like what it seems to me like is it seems like probably the team were looking at Julio and they were saying it's not getting any better. You need to just rest. And they are a team with playoff. They expect to make playoffs. They're gonna want him there, so it makes a lot of sense why they shut him down. But I think if you had Julio, you weren't somebody that was relying on him at this point anyway, right? Like if you drafted Julio, he was not a guy that he hasn't got. If you have a good record right now, it wasn't because of Julio Jones. So you've probably already figured out a way to work without him. It just means that AJ Brown is back to what he was last year. Like the biggest concern coming into the season was what that share was going to look like with Julio, and now that hasn't really been the case for most of the season anyway. It hasn't really mattered. And now for at least the next 3-4 weeks, like AJ Brown is, he's got to be a wide receiver 1.
Yeah.
Dude,
and we were talking about his physicality and his ability, like what he brings to the table. His first game back, they were talking about like he was playing a little reserved, a little hesitant, and then Tannehill talked to him, and it was like, okay, it's go time. And so, like, as soon as he flipped that switch and got motivated, it was like, oh, well, he's a freak again. So it was more mental, which
Yeah.
goes, I mean, we talk about that once in a while, but like sometimes this is mental, and these guys need to trust their bodies. They need to trust their health. Um, AJ Brown did that, and I think he's been good to go since he came back, and he's very good.
He is really good. That's a guy I kind of slept on for too long. It's just weird. Like a guy like him is just, it's what he does best is being big and physical and strong. And that seems like such a weird, for that to be the thing you're best at. It just seems like such a random, I don't know. It's just not, it's different than saying like, oh, he's an incredible route runner or he's really fast or he's got great hands. It's like, what's this guy do? It's like, he's physical. Huh? What do you mean he's physical? But that's what he does. He is so physical that he dominates. He's really actually a lot of fun to watch. I really like watching AJ Brown play.
The only other guy that I would describe that like that well with that description would be Julio, and that's what I think was really interesting
Right.
about like him coming back or Julio going to Tennessee was like, oh my God, these DBs are gonna get hurt.
Yeah. Looking through the rest of these, see if there's anything worth kind of mentioning. I mean, T.Y. Hilton got cleared from protocol, so maybe that's a that's a boost for Carson, and then we still haven't got to really see what that means for Pittman because Ty goes, he had the one game that was a good game for him, but then that next game he got hurt, and then he's been out, and I don't know. Starting to feel like Hilton's one of those dudes that just, for one reason or another, just can't stay healthy.
Hey Jack, probably going James Robinson. I think we both agreed that if he's playing, he's expected to get some volume.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're watching the game and it plays out any different, we didn't really have anything ahead of time to really indicate that. So I go James Robinson. I
Same.
mean, if James Robinson ends up having a bigger issue with that heel than we're aware of, and he's limited, I mean, obviously that's a difference maker. But there's nothing that we know right now that would indicate that. I've been messing with this ticker because we put so much in there that it was cutting it off. I think I got
Really?
it straightened out now. Yeah. You guys probably saw it shrinking and expanding on the bottom of the screen there for a second, but I think we're good now. I mean, we've touched on the major injuries. We did talk about this might be another angle because we're obviously here for fantasy football reasons, and these things sometimes overlap, and we could be talking about the same thing for different reasons. But a couple names we mentioned that we were talking about for fantasy reasons, like J.D. McKissic could have a big game, or Dawson Knox returning, and we don't really know what to expect. Those are two guys that were on our radar for sportsbook betting too. Something that we have been talking about getting more involved in. I figure we got 20 minutes before the games. We've touched on the injuries. Well, I guess I don't want to skip over. We got T.Y. Hilton's back. We knew that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Was there anything else? I guess I'll pause for a second. Was there anything else that we wanted to make sure everybody was aware of?
Nah, I think all that major news everybody is aware of. I mean, Chris Godwin is active. I know he was kind of a question all the way up until today, but he's out there and playing.
Without Mike
all the other
Evans
major ones.
and Gronk, or sorry, without AB and Gronk, they're missing.
Right. Yeah, AB and Gronk are both out. Yeah. Chris Godwin should have himself a game. Him and Mike Evans are in line for some big games.
Okay.
But yeah, I think all those injuries we had already talked about.
Okay. So the McKissic and the Dawson Knox, and obviously there are several others that you might feel good about for different reasons, but definitely interesting to look at for maybe some same game parlays or maybe just some general parlays that you can put together. With GameScript, we were talking a little bit about McKissic, and with Dawson Knox, it was more like, is he going to take on the role that he had before he got hurt? And his numbers on the receptions and receiving yards on the sports books are pretty low, right?
Yeah. Do you remember what they were? Do you have them in front of you?
They
I'm trying to
were,
pull it up.
I can pull it up. They were like, I want to say it was like 38.5 yards receiving and like a handful of catches. Let me see.
34.5 receiving yards and 3.5 receptions. Which what's funny about that 3.5 receptions plus 125.
Yeah.
But I get it. I mean, if you look at his game log, you would understand why. Like I said, I would rather take the yardage than the receptions on that one.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Um, and he was hitting some bigger plays, so like he can go well over 35 yards on under 3.5 catches
Yeah.
with the way that they had been using them. Game script was a factor a little bit with the Bucks Washington game, but there was one that stood out to me. I mean, obviously we're saying like it's your money and like you need to feel comfortable with what you're doing out there. But J.D. McKissick 30.5 receiving yards. I mean, if the Bucks get up early, I think it's easy to see a world where they're playing catch up, and McKissick would benefit from that quite a bit. Even
Right.
with Heineke out there.
What about unfortunately they don't have a Godwin reception total up right now, not on BetMGM anyway. But they do have his receiving yards at 64.5. What do you think about that? With no AB, no Gronk, it's Mike Evans and it's Chris Godwin.
Yeah, against Washington. I like that because they've got Mike Evans up to 77.5 yards, and I think Godwin's the
Right.
better yards bet anyway.
Yeah, I mean, obviously either one could do that, but it's kind of like I just want to take the one that's lower, and
Mhm.
Godwin is considerably lower on his yardage total than Evans is,
Yep.
so that's an interesting one. I wish they would have had a reception on his, but they don't. It probably would have been pretty high anyway. Probably something I wouldn't have wanted to mess with. I do agree the receiving yards for McKissick is interesting. I just wish it was a little lower, 30.5. It's tough.
Well, so I'm getting into it a little bit here, but we've got. Ooh, that's a tough one, Justin.
Yeah, Van Jefferson yeah, that is it's tough because we like both options. I think I guess I don't know for sure, Dub, how you're feeling about Jefferson right now, but I know that we both like Smith. I think though I'm probably gonna still play. I think I'm gonna play Jefferson this week.
Smith had a good game last week, and that's what
He
makes me
did
like stop.
did. I mean, I could totally understand why you'd want to go with Smith. I personally will play Jefferson this week, but good options, but either way.
The thing
Going back to the
about
other
rookies
question,
is
I could
like,
stack Hurts and Smith, but I have to pick between Hurts and Carr. Right, right,
well, we're rolling. I'm rolling Hurts in that situation anyway. So if that's
right.
like a tiebreaker for you, that might help.
Yeah, we both would go with Hurts, and so if you like that stack, I mean, I have no complaints if you would want to play Smith over Jefferson, and I know that's the way Dub leans. So if you want to, you know, have some more fun with that and get your stack on, play Smith.
I don't know what to expect from Philly and Denver. Like you do have to factor in the altitude, and I don't know how much that affects these teams, but like Philadelphia is a weird team. It's been kind of hard to pin them down. Like as soon as we trash them for not running the ball enough because Miles Sanders is getting no love, no volume, he goes
Yeah,
down, and now Jordan Howard's like a feature back. And so like I don't know what Philly's identity is. I don't know what they want their identity to be. But if they're gonna go take old ass Jordan Howard, you take him up to the mountains and expect him to run 17 times, Philly's in big trouble this week. So if they're gonna run what we've seen them be before, this happened before the Sanders injury, before Jordan Howard reemerged, then I think Smith's more interesting. And I know he just had a big week. For me, it's mostly that when you're looking at these younger players, these rookie receivers specifically, because the receivers are less predictable than running backs, um, the later in the year that you see these guys producing, the more um, intriguing it is to me because it shows that they're probably developing. It shows that they're putting in the work, I think, is implied because it's easy for some of these guys to get frustrated or um, get tired. I've talked mostly about rookie quarterbacks, but I think some of these guys are adapting to a longer schedule too. I mean, we're in week 10 now. We're at the tail end of the college football season right now. And if you think about it, like some of these guys I think have a hard time doing that. So, taking on that extended workload. So, I'm encouraged by Devonta Smith producing and having a nice game last week, but he still has been pretty inconsistent. So, it's volatile, but this late in the year I'm happy to see it. Um, I do go Devontae Smith. I go Devontae Smith because of the upside. I think his final stat line could be higher than Van Jefferson, but we've seen that he can disappear sometimes too.
I'll go Smith too. Dubs convinced me. I'll take Smith too. Go ahead and roll with it.
Now, if you like Van Jefferson, you roll with it.
Nope.
I've been stashing Devonta Smith, and it's like, okay, well, you have what 4 games this year that are over 15 points, and then you've got 4 games that are like 6 points or lower, and it's frustrating. We'll have to
Right.
see what happens. Philly doesn't know what's going to happen. I guarantee you right now, if you were to ask any of the staff members for the Philadelphia Eagles, they have no idea what's about to happen this week. I think they just take it as it comes. Jordan Howard is fantasy relevant right now, bro. What
I
are his betting lines? What do we got for Jordan Howard this week?
I haven't looked.
I'm going.
Man, James Robinson, if he's healthy, dude, his under over for rushing and receiving is 64.5 yards. 46.5 rushing yards. That's a
That's
pretty
low.
low number.
That's really low.
That is a low number, Stream. Probably going to be making that bet.
Oh,
I mean, okay, James Robinson. James Robinson showed enough in pregame warmups to get cleared after sitting out last week. The heel injury is a pain tolerance issue, but the Jags may not give Robinson, who had at least 19 touches in the last 4 games before going down, his normal workload at less than 100%. That's not actually any report. That's a reporter or somebody, whoever wrote this, is just making an assumption. It's a fair one to make, but that's not the Jags coming out and saying that.
right.
I'm not buying it. I think Robinson's playing most of this game.
What was it?
I
The
like
other
that
one that
bet.
we liked was the rushing and receiving combined for Jonathan Taylor's a little bit high, but I think the matchup made it more intriguing. So the Colts play the Jags, and Jonathan Taylor's total rushing and plus receiving yards is at 114.5. Can we put them both
Yeah.
together? Are we doing a Colts Jags same game?
I mean, you could do a same game. You can throw a little Pitts in there.
Pittman?
Or yeah, sorry, Pittman.
Yeah, let's do this.
I'm probably any of these player props that I see around -110 to -115 that I like. I think I'm gonna bet a group of them, and I'm just gonna bet them all as single bets. But the parlay is certainly much more fun. I won't lie. Won't deny that. I wonder how many people. How many states is betting legal now? I don't even know. I know it's expanding, but there's still a lot of people out there that can't do this, which sucks.
It's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun.
Well, I can do so the same games don't or I'm not seeing where they're offering the rushing and receiving, but I could do James Robinson over 44.5 rushing yards, Jonathan Taylor over 14.5 receiving yards, and Michael Pittman over 59.5 receiving yards, and I get a plus 360 out of that. That's not bad.
No, it's not.
What would I look at if I was doing receptions? Where's Michael Pittman's receptions are at 4.5, but it's a
Four and
minus
a half.
160.
Right. I think it was at 5.5 earlier today.
Oh, there it is. Jonathan Taylor rushing and receiving. Oh, I'm not on the same game parlay anymore. Hang on. Timeouts. I can add a Jonathan Taylor anytime touchdown scorer to this. Listen, boys, we are winning money this week, okay? Jonathan Taylor anytime touchdown scorer. Lock it in. I feel better about that than the 14.5 receiving because sometimes he'll get like 3 targets and have 1 catch. And it's like, well, is that 1 catch going to be 15 yards? Hopefully.
Right.
We're doing it. James Robinson rushing yards. Let's lock that in.
Yeah, I think I might go for that one. Might be the better one to bet, honestly. I'm debating between that or the total of rushing and receiving of 65.
Well, and you get to pick on these same games. They give you like the alternate, basically. They don't call it that, but they give you alternates. So, like, you can take 39.5 rushing yards for Robinson. You're just going to get really low odds boost. Or you can get up to 49.5 and you're going to get another plus 150.
Fuck it. Go like 70.
70 rushing yards?
Yeah. What are you getting out of that?
I can't. Well, maybe if I do alternate. James Robinson alternate. No, it goes up to 60. So I can take 59.5 and it puts me pretty far up there.
Yeah.
So if I do Jonathan Taylor anytime touchdown, Michael Pittman over 59.5 receiving, and James Robinson over 59.5 rushing puts me at a plus 675. That's pretty nice.
Mm-hmm.
YOLO.
I don't mind it. How much time we got? 10 minutes?
Yes.
Got 10 minutes to get these bets in. Cardinals, Kyler Murray, and DeAndre Hopkins are out. That's official. Well, the Carolina Panthers defense, they're not that bad of a defense. Gilmore's there now. I was going to look at like Christian Kirk and AJ Green's numbers, the receiving and receptions and receiving yards, but they don't even have them on here. Probably with that Kyler news, I'm sure they're making the lines right now, and they don't even probably know what they want to set them at.
Yeah, they're proceeding with caution on that.
McCaffrey, I wonder if he plays more today than he even did last week. He's completely off the injury report. His reception total right now is 4.5 plus 105. It's risky.
I got it. I think I got to stop here. I got 3 same games out. No, listen, like when we're doing this, I'm usually putting like $1 or a couple bucks on these, so like I'm not getting crazy, but it's a weird week, but I think it offers some opportunities.
Yeah. I think I might call my shot today on Mike Williams.
Yeah.
I think I might take his over receiving yards.
It's not a bad
62 and a
move.
half.
Oh, one thing to bring up, I guess, that for fantasy, general fantasy, if you're looking at somebody that you might be able to pick up that you could get ahead of waivers on too. I know Josh had mentioned doing that. The Lions signed Josh Reynolds, and honestly, in the offseason, I was hoping that they would. I put him, I think for the Lions, he could be, I value him the same as Tyrell Williams, and I know some people were stashing Tyrell Williams post-injury. So I do think there could be some interest in Josh Reynolds there reuniting with Goff. And he was good at times for the Rams with Goff. So it was few and far between, but they also had Kupp and they had Woods and Higbee got involved. So I think there's some opportunity there. It might be worth a stash just to see what happens. We've been interested in Quintez Cephas, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Khalif Raymond at times has been one of the trendy pickups. So I guess it's more like, why not? Josh Reynolds with coming back to a quarterback he's familiar with.
Yeah.
He is not active this week, so we're not going to really know what that means yet, but definitely something that if you're in Fab or you don't want to fall down the waiver claim priority list, you could jump on that.
What do you think about? I think these numbers are lower because it's Russell Wilson's first game back. But you've got Metcalf and Lockett sitting at 70 and 70 and a half and 68.5 receiving yards. Isn't one of those dudes doing that today, if not both?
Yeah,
Or is Russ going to be rusty?
Yo. So that Lockett was the one that I was hoping had lower numbers because like he had one good game with Geno Smith, but I was thinking like, okay, well if his betting numbers or betting lines come down, and I think he's going to be great with Russell Wilson, like I'm all about that. But
Right.
Lockett at 68.5 is a little bit higher than I would want, just because he's kind of boomer bust.
Yeah.
But I think I have had this weird feeling that it is a Lockett game.
Renfro, 57.5 yards, 5.5 receptions. I'm going to look at Van Jefferson's numbers real quick, and then I think I'm good. Kind of curious what they got him at. Oh, they don't. They don't have him on here.
I hate it when that stuff happens.
See, these books, man. Anybody where it's like, oh, the public might have an edge. We're just not going to put it up there.
Yeah. We don't know where to value it, so like you just can't.
Right. I like betting overs because I'm a glass half full kind of guy. But overs are probably not the bet to make normally. I mean, just with the simple fact that anybody can get hurt at any time. And it happens every week. I got like 8 bets on overs. Feels a little weird.
I know. I want to feel better about unders, but it's easier, I think, to see the games where somebody can have an opportunity versus the ones where you're betting on a guy getting shut down. It's so tough.
Yep.
What do we have for Dearness Johnson?
Yeah, that's a good one. See what he's got.
17.5 receiving yards, but 81.5 rushing is where Dearness Johnson's line is on DK.
81.
Yeah.
That's a little high for me.
Yeah. They don't even have DPJ listed on here for receptions. His longest reception is listed at 20.5, which seems pretty high.
Are you going with James Robinson rushing over?
Yes, I did that.
I think I'm there with you.
I put together Jonathan Taylor anytime touchdown, James Robinson over 59.5, and Michael Pittman over 59.5 receiving. Fire away, Ryan. Oh. I mean,
Like Dan Arnold? Who are we talking about?
I think so.
It's really tough for me to want to play Singletary because Zach Moss cleared concussion protocol. And when both those guys are out there on the field, it has not been good for Singletary. So I don't love having to play Darnold either, but I probably would. I'd play him over Singletary.
Yeah, and Dan Arnold has been like a slow and steady kind of deal. When the Jags acquired him, they have used him. He's been kind of capped. You're gonna get some points out of it though. Must be a pretty deep league.
Okay. I got 7 player props out there.
Oh dang.
And they're all overs. Need a tight end, full PPR. Also, should I play the Titans? I would play, out of those tight ends, I would play Knox. Fryermuth doesn't have Big Ben. Big Ben's out today, so I don't feel confident.
It's Fant's first game
about playing
back
him.
too, right? Wasn't he out?
Yep. And I would rather, Fant's not bad, not a bad play either. But I just, between those 3, for me personally, it's going to be Knox. It's his first game back too, and I mean, I'm a little nervous about it, but they've held him out. They've kept him out. He's back in full go off the injury report. I expect him to be back to what he was as far as his playing time goes.
I see. I think Corey Davis has a respectable floor. I mean, when he's been playing, he's been involved. It's the Mike White question, I guess, because like Corey
The
Davis
0 point
with
floor.
yeah, Corey Davis with Zach Wilson had a pretty nice floor actually. I think his volume kept him relatively safe. You know, out of total 0 territory for sure. But it's the Mike White wild card, man. We don't know what's gonna happen.
For real. Mike White, and it's a good defense they're going against. We have no idea how that's going to look. But with the defense, start the Titans, Saints. Did you already answer that?
Oh no. They're playing each other, so like they could both have good games. That's a tough one for me.
I'm thinking, trying to picture how this might go in my head real quick. I'll play the Saints.
Yeah, Tre'Davious White's good.
It's kind of crazy to me that the Saints are starting Trevor Siemian. It just seems like they really don't, they just don't want Hill to play if they don't have to. Not as a full-time quarterback. Wasn't Trevor Siemian the same dude that was quarterback for the Denver, right?
Yep.
I remember those days.
And actually, he played well enough that thought they might have re-signed him. They did not.
I think he's just one of those dudes that, probably a worthy backup, but really not a starter. It's like a Jacoby Brissett. Should be in the NFL, should be on a roster, shouldn't be starting.
Like, yeah, he should make some money, but we don't really want him to be a thing.
Right. Okay. Listen, I got a lot more money out there today than I anticipated when I started today.
Bro, same. It's gonna make these games pretty interesting. I need Atlanta to kick a long field goal today. That's where I chose to draw the line.
Oh, man.
It is 1:02. We've got the games coming up. Definitely hope that we helped you guys make some decisions that are going to get you a dub this week. If you are new to the channel, I think I did see a couple new faces and you're still hanging out. Please, help us out, help yourselves out. Hit that like and hit the subscribe button. That will not only help the channel, help support the channel, but that will also give you a notification to let you know when we go live. We do this Sunday mornings before the games start, and we also do it Tuesday nights before waiver claims process. just help make any last minute decisions. We usually get into some trade conversations too. We both love doing that. So we're here for it anytime. You guys have any questions, feel free to comment on the channel too. We do try to respond to those pretty quickly. But anyway, regardless, we definitely appreciate anybody that chooses to spend their time hanging out with us and participate in chat. So thank you for all of that. Hopefully you guys get some wins this week. Maybe even win a little bit of money. We threw a couple ideas out there. Definitely like getting into a little bit of sportsbook betting. So we're here for all of it. But appreciate you guys. Love you guys. And